All right, everyone. Welcome to our computer engineering fall 2015, spring 2016 co-op job meeting. My name is Todd Foley. I am a professor here, an assistant professor here in the Division of Professional Practice and Experiential Learning. I am your co-op advisor. I teach courses here. I advise students. My primary field of study is leadership development, and so that's kind of what I do when I teach courses. There are some folks here in the class that I teach. But for your purposes, I'm going to help you do all that's necessary in order for you to be successful in the co-op job search and then on co-op while you're doing the program. I want to do this right away so there's no confusion. There is a process of certification and sectioning. Part of that process is done. Certification is done. Anyone who got the email to come to this meeting has been certified for co-op for either the fall or the spring semester. Which semester you're going to co-op in is up to the department. I don't actually make that decision. They're the ones who know about class loads and faculty time and different things like that. And so they're going to determine what section you're in, whether it's fall or spring. Have you received that email from Teresa yet? No. Okay, so she will send you an email asking you if you have a need for a certain semester, if there's an absolute, like, I can't do this semester. And a good example is we got a guy on co-op who can never do fall because he's part of the football team. And so he's co-oping all the other semesters that we have available. And so he couldn't do fall, so we had to do him for spring. Those are the kind of examples. If you have something like that, let Teresa know. Otherwise, you will be assigned either a fall co-op or a spring co-op. If you're assigned a spring co-op, it's great that you're here, but we'll do this again in the fall. You'll come back, and we'll do this all over again. That meeting will be much shorter because you've already done this once. But if you're co-oping for the fall, this is very pertinent, and you're going to want to start searching for co-ops now. The fall co-op term is August 25 through December 26th. So if you're co-oping in the fall, those are the dates you need to know. Co-ops have to start on those dates and around those dates almost perfectly. And so between the co-op term has to be 13 weeks. So sometimes I allow students like 5 days before the deadline, 5 days after the deadline on either side of those dates. That's okay. I will also note that the end of the semester is December 26th, which is the day after a significant holiday for a lot of people. And so I doubt that your employer will want you to stay until that date, but those are the official co-op dates. I always find it funny when we do December 26th. So this is our job meeting agenda. This is what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get started on any of these things, is there any questions about what we're going to be doing, what this meeting is all about? Okay, perfect. I'm going to let Nicole introduce herself, and then we'll just jump right into it.
Hey guys, I'm Nicole Wallenhorst. I am actually a super senior for computer engineering. I've been here for 6 years. And yeah, I have done a lot of co-ops, so I'm here to kind of talk to you guys about my own experience and whatnot. But
great.
That'll be later.
Cool. All right, so some resources that you need to have. There is a job search key dates and expectations document that I emailed to you. I was going to have it as a handout. I forgot it. My bad. But it's been emailed to you. Make sure you pay attention to that. It has all the dates that you need to know for the job search timeline and expectations of you as a co-op student. You are expected to know everything that's in that document. I also sent a co-op search strategies guide, which we'll talk a little bit about today. That is opportunities for you to be successful within the co-op search process. I have Google Docs that I will share links for you to see new jobs that get posted in PAL and online job opportunities for you as well. Things that are not in PAL but might be pretty cool to apply for, like Microsoft or IBM or Disney or something like that. Those don't exist in PAL, so we create a separate document for that. Obviously, individual appointments with me. If you go to uc.edu/propel, there'll actually be a really cool list of our top employers. I'll actually talk a little bit about that today. But there's also average salaries. Average salaries in Compy right now hover around between $16.50 and $17 an hour. But you can check out all that information online. And of course, I'll share this slideshow with you so you can have that as well. Job search timeline and expectations. That document has key dates. I need you to pay attention to those dates. The first date that's super important is going to be February 9th. February 9th. That is the day at 8 a.m. that I send your resume to all the employers you want to work for. So if you have not told me, essentially, what employers you want to work for, or have not given me your resume by February 9th, you're going to miss the first round. That's okay because I still do it subsequent rounds. It's every 2 weeks-ish. And so pay attention to the dates and deadlines on that as well. It has expectations and requirements I need you to pay attention to. Additional expectations on your professionalism during the search process. Make sure you pay attention to that as well. I also need you to know that most students don't land a fall co-op until the summer. So if it's April and you're sweating bullets because you haven't got a co-op, that's okay because most students, and I would say generally about 70 to 80% of them, don't get a co-op for the fall until May, June, and even into July, some into August. And so it can take that long. I mention this for 2 reasons. One, not so that you won't stress out completely by the end of the semester if you don't have a co-op. And 2, to remind you that your job, if you don't have a co-op at the end of the semester, your job is to find a co-op during the summer. So it's not slack off time, my last summer of freedom, let's sit by the pool. You got to get that co-op. I mean, sit by the pool, but look at jobs while you're doing it. And then that last part, because I didn't bring them, you don't have to actually do that, so I think we're good. Phases of the search process. I want to go over what to expect during the search process and the overall co-op process, all right? I think it's essential that you understand the 4 different phases of co-op in 16 very easy steps. Phase 1 is entering the search phase. So everyone here is in Intro to Co-op, right? Yes? Good? Okay, pass that course, because if you don't pass that course, you can't go on co-op. After you've enrolled into that course, you're going to be approved for co-op by your department. And so everyone here has been approved. You've been certified. So you're already steps 1 and 2. You're already ready to go. Your large group job meeting, which you're here now, which is fantastic. So you've got 3 things down. Then you're going to upload your resume and get your resume approved in PAL. How many of you have applied to PAL for co-op? Okay, good majority. Some of you have not raised your hands. That is job number 1 for you after you leave here today, is to go into PAL, www.uc.edu/PAL, log, and then click student and register, apply for co-op. That's the first thing I need you to do. After you've done that, you can upload your resume. Now, a lot of you are in intro right now, and so you're going to be working on your resumes. Please note that I don't have a deadline for your resume to be up there per se, but if you want your resume to go out to the first round of employers, it's February 9th at 8 a.m. So if you're saying, like, well, but my intro class says it's okay to submit it February 14th, awesome. That's the intro class. For me, it's February 9th. And so that resume will go out to employers on February 9th, unless you don't put it in there, and then you don't get to do that. After you've uploaded your resume, you go on to phase 2, which is exploring. You're going to look at different jobs. They're going to be released to you. We have, in computer engineering, nearly 300 jobs in PAL. And so it's going to take you some time to sift through all of that. As you know, it's sometimes very challenging to do that. There are jobs that are shown for individuals who have 3.0 in GPAs and higher, and then there are some jobs that are there for everyone. If you don't have a 3.0, that's okay. There's still lots and lots of jobs. There's still 200 plus jobs. But know that there are some restrictions on grades, and just something to keep in mind. You will need to rank jobs as either somewhat interested, not interested, or very interested. Okay? You need to rank very interested jobs, the ones that you want to apply to. That's the ones I'm going to send your resume to. So all the other stuff, the somewhat, the not interested, you don't rank it at all. No one's ever going to know any of that except for you. If you click very interested and you finalize that and it comes to me, I send your resume to that employer. So every employer you say very interested in, you get a resume sent to. Then you interview for jobs. Average number of interviews a student gets is hover around 2.7, 2.8 for computer engineering. It takes on the average between 1.3, 1.4 interviews to get a job in computer engineering. So that's pretty good. Usually students, after 1 or 2 interviews, that's pretty much all they need. After you've been offered a co-op, fantastic. We're really excited. Accept the offer for the co-op. Go log back into PAL. Select I've landed a co-op. I register you for co-op. You're placed. And that phase is actually relatively quick. And then the last phase is engaging that co-op. You go on co-op. You complete your co-op. And then when you come back to the university, you meet with me to do a reflection. While you're on co-op, you're going to have 3 reports that you have to fill out, 1 in the beginning, 1 in the middle, 1 at the end. Those reports are filled out by you with your supervisor, not with me. I get emails and phone calls all the time. Todd, I'd love to set up my meeting with you to go over what my goals are for co-op this year. I have no idea what your goals are going to be for co-op. That's something you have to work on with your supervisor. In order to move on from that, if you've successfully completed 2 co-ops at the same employer, you are now eligible for another phase, which is the job change phase. Essentially, if you want to do something different, you apply for the job change through PAL, meet with me, communicate with the previous employer that you're not coming back, and then search for a new job, and you start all over again. But you have to do 2 in order to do that. Now, the exceptions are, my employer hired me for 1 semester, they don't have any money, and they're letting me go. Well, then, of course, I'll let you find a new co-op. But most of the time, it's 2 semesters of co-op before you can find a new job. There's also an unemployment phase. This is the phase when you don't get a job. You work really, really hard to find one. You work from now until classes start in August, and it just didn't work out for you. Then what we do is we get a waiver for you for something called unemployment without prejudice, saying that you did your job, but it just didn't happen. You have to have 5 co-ops to graduate from this university in your program. If you don't get 5, you can't graduate. But if you do all the work to find a job and you just can't get hired, we give you a waiver for that semester, so then you only have to complete 4. Does that make sense? So we don't hold you back or anything. Ranking of positions is a 2-step process, all right? You go through the 200-plus jobs, and you click on the ones that you're interested in by saying very interested, and then you hit a button that says finalize rankings. If you don't do the finalize rankings, I'll never know that you finished. And when you click finalize rankings, it comes to me, and I release your resume to employers. That's how they get your resume. After that process is done, you sit back and you wait for the phone calls to come in. There are all sorts of other strategy things we'll talk about, but essentially that's how PAL works. Does that make sense? All right. During the co-op term, you use PAL to complete your student learning modules. As I mentioned, there are 3 of them, 1 at the beginning, 1 in the middle, 1 at the end. Your supervisor also completes an assessment of you through PAL, which you'll then get to read after co-op. After you come back, you use PAL to submit any job change requests, register your next co-op, and access all of your reports. Here's a really important thing. There is someone made YouTube videos, tutorials of all the things you need to know how to do in PAL. When students email me, Todd, I don't know how to upload my resume. Todd, I don't know how to access my student reports. Todd, I don't know how to change my supervisor. I literally hit reply and link the video. That's what I'm going to do. So the first thing you should do if you don't know how to do something in PAL is go here. In my class, I require all the students to watch the videos because I don't want to hear that I don't know how to do something in PAL. Because if you don't know how to do it, it's all here. Now, that doesn't count I have an error, something's not working, PAL's not very good. Those things you can send to me. But for the most part, if you don't know how to do a basic function in PAL, you need to go here first. So your to-do list, after you leave here, number 1, I want you to go and verify your account in PAL. If you don't have one, you need to apply for co-op. It's instantaneous application for everyone in our program. So as soon as you apply, it's live. Then you can upload your resume. Then I want you to upload your resume as a PDF file. Don't upload it as a Word document or any other type of document. Upload it as a PDF. That way nothing gets kind of ruined, formatting, and lost in translation. Then I need you to rank between 50 and 80 jobs in PAL. Now, students tell me it takes about an hour to rank 10 jobs. So that's 5 to 8 hours that I'm expecting you to be in PAL. We also know statistically that it takes between 15 and 20 rankings to get a single interview. All right? There are a lot of jobs in PAL. There are a lot of employers who just like to window shop. And so they'll say, when they create a job in PAL, they'll say, I want to have this open every semester because I just want to see who's interested. They may not have an opening for the fall semester, but they will have the job, and you will hit apply, and then you'll never hear from them ever. Okay? I do a really good job of streamlining that process, removing jobs out of there so you don't see the old and dead jobs that don't actually exist. But it is a process, and so you need to kind of be prepared for it. So take some time between now. If you're already in PAL, you're ready to go. And once you're sectioned into the fall semester, when that happens, you will automatically be set to see all the jobs. You'll get an email from me. That's when you start taking 5 to 8 hours to do that process. Remember, the deadline is February 9th at 8 a.m. That's when I hit the button to send all those resumes out to all those employers. All right, so what does an active co-op search strategy include? It's not just using PAL, all right? We have to do lots of other stuff. There is no magical world where I uploaded my resume to PAL and they gave me a co-op, all right? I have to talk to students at the end of every semester and say, you don't have a co-op. Let's talk about what you did to try and get one. And 9 times out of 10, those students say, well, I ranked 50 jobs in PAL. That's what you told me to do, and I didn't get any interviews. All right, well, you weren't aggressive. I need you to be appropriately aggressive with employers. And that includes making your resume relevant. Nicole talked about it. Now, she has a really fancy-looking 2-column resume that not even I probably have enough information to fill because she's done all these really cool things. You don't get to do that yet. I mean, you could try a 2-column one. If you got enough content, go ahead and try. But for the most part, you're going to be looking at a pretty streamlined, pretty standard resume. Make sure it's relevant. Make sure that the work experience that you have, or if you don't have actual work experience, or the activities that you're involved in, list accomplishments, not just your job description. Don't just write something like, I flipped burgers at McDonald's. List, like, I flipped burgers and I was so good at it that they promoted me to head burger flipper guy and I trained burger flippers. All right? That's what, as an accomplishment, that's what I want you to write. I want everything in action verbs and I want everything in past tense. All right? If you have concerns about your resume, let me know and I will take a look at it and do a review. We can maybe do something today if we get through this in the next 10 minutes, or you can come to that resume review time. I want you to rank between 50 and 80 jobs in PAL. We've already talked about that. You can rank up to 250, 300 jobs in PAL if you really have the time. But statistically speaking, you need between 50 and 80 to get a job in computer engineering. Be on the lookout for new postings. So after you're finished and February 9th happens and I send your resume out to all those employers and you sit back and you open a Pepsi and you're really excited about maybe interviews coming in, well, it doesn't stop there, right? New jobs come to me every day. In fact, I'm sitting on 30 of them right now that I haven't had an opportunity to push through the system. And so that's a ton of new jobs, a ton of very exciting things. And sometimes those are the most exciting ones, are the ones that are brand new because they're probably doing something really cool that we haven't done before. And so what I do is I have a Google Doc and I will send that to you. In fact, this is the Google Doc right here. This is actually this spring's Google Doc. And I will list them, and I'll break them up by dates. I'll even put locations in on them so you can see what the types of information. Now, this job number here is what corresponds to PAL. So if you just type that in the search field in PAL, the job will come up. Then apply for that job. List it as very interested. And the next time I send out resumes, because I do it every 2 weeks, your resume will go out to that employer. All right. Continuously add new, so after the career fair, which is February 18th-ish, after the career fair, I want you to continuously add 10 new jobs in PAL every week until you land a co-op. So that's an hour every week that you sit down with PAL and you use it, and you find new jobs. So you're going to look at the jobs that you were like somewhat interested, and you're going to turn them into very interested until you get that co-op. Make sense? The other things I want you to do is apply online to at least 7 co-ops or internships that are not in PAL. Now, PAL has a ton of great jobs and great opportunities, but it's not everything that's out there in the world. And so I want you to look at online job boards. I also have a Google Doc for that. And I list a lot of the companies that students are like. Some of them are the dream companies that they'd love to work for. Some of them are just companies that we have good relationships with, but don't use PAL to hire their students. They have an online site that you have to go to. And so I list them all here. And I list cool things. A lot of these our students have co-opted at before, and some of them I just found and threw on there. A lot of the gaming ones are really new for us, but I have some students who are interested in gaming, so I threw a lot of those on there. But those are all, this is just a part of it. I didn't, obviously it only goes to end. There's a ton more. You'll get a link to that Google Doc. Check it out. I want you to apply to at least 7 of them. Now that doesn't mean 7 of these. It can be 7 of those, that's fine. But 7 of these or 7 of something else that you find that's not in PAL. That's being appropriately aggressive. Just linking up my stuff. Okay. And then what I want you to do is I want you to consider using Indeed. Indeed.com is, in my opinion, one of the best job aggregators that's out there. They scour other job aggregator sites and they scour actual employers and they pull jobs and they stick them in Indeed. It's easy to search. You don't need an account. You don't need to upload your resume. You can just do a cold search. Type in computer engineering, fall 2015 co-op or fall 2015 internship, and it'll populate with a ton of stuff. If you are relegated to a certain city, now remember when you signed the contract to do co-op, we said that we'll send you anywhere, right, in the country at least. But if you're like, I really want to co-op in Chicago, I really want to co-op in Portland, then you could type in those words and those jobs will come up. Same thing with Cincinnati. If you just leave it blank, it'll be all those jobs. Then you can set up alerts that will send you emails or text alerts to tell you when new jobs are posted on Indeed, and you can go through that way. And I definitely recommend doing that. After spring break or during spring break, if you haven't had an interview yet and you're starting to feel a little, ooh, I'm queasy about that. Or sometime around May after semester's over and you're feeling, ooh, I'm not all that confident. I had one interview, maybe I've had no interviews. Now it's time to start hitting up friends and family. Nicole kind of mentioned this. Don't be shy about that. Pass your resume along. You never know what happens. It happens for our students all the time. And then someone sees someone and then now they have a job at Northrop Grumman doing cybersecurity. That's how it works. And so keep those things in mind. Update your LinkedIn profile and connect with me. That's a really important piece. Have a LinkedIn profile because they're going to search for it anyways. You might as well have something on there that lists all the courses that you've taken, because all those courses that you tried, that Nicole listed on a resume, sometimes it takes up a lot of space and it's kind of annoying. But if you list them in LinkedIn, then it's much easier for them to see. You can list all the projects and all the computer builds that you've ever done, or anything else can go on LinkedIn. It's a great place for a portfolio. One of the cool things about LinkedIn is that they have a site called students.linkedin.com that sifts through all the noise of all the jobs that are out there and only focuses on the ones that are for undergraduate students, whether internships or co-ops. And they're great because if you find one, it'll tell you if you know anyone at that company. I'll give you an example. Last semester, I had a student come to me who wanted to work for a company called Jive Software. Has anyone ever heard of them? Neither have I. They're in San Francisco. Apparently, they do software development for the music industry. He wants to be in the music industry. So what we ended up doing was going on LinkedIn, and I typed in Jive Software. And what should come up is that I have a second-degree connection to the CEO of that company. So I know somebody who knows them, right? And that's a really, really close connection for me. It happened to be that the person who knew the CEO is my boss here at UC. So just go upstairs and say, hey, you know this guy. They're like, oh, yeah, I know him from X and X and X. Okay, great. Can you pass this student's resume along? He wants an interview. And the student got her interview. That's how these things work, so make sure you get your LinkedIn profile up and running. And then lastly, there's a phone number you can call to set up an appointment with me. If you're starting to feel a little uneasy, a little less confident, make sure you set up an appointment with me and we can talk a little bit more about your strategy. These are our top 10 employers for CompE. So take note of these. Again, you'll get this as a slideshow. It's also listed on Propel's website. But these are the ones that I would recommend you apply for. They hire the most students in computer engineering. Yes, University of Cincinnati hires a lot of students for our program. Oftentimes, if you're interested in research development, like R&D, University of Cincinnati is one of our leading employers for that. And so you work with faculty in your department or other faculty at the university that are doing really neat things, other research projects as well. University of Cincinnati also hires students to do IT work, and so some of our CompE students who like to lean that way will also hire that. I don't necessarily recommend that piece because I'd like to get you out of the university, but if you're interested in research, UC is a great place to do that. Those are IS, there's nobody here from IS. Spring Career Fair, make sure you go. It is February 19th. Attend the Career Fair. They have a website that you should find if you haven't already seen it, because I should have sent you the link already to you. Find that and look at the employers that you applied through PAL, and then look at who's coming to the Career Fair. You're going to find a lot of alignment. Those are the companies I want you to target. So go to the Career Fair, suit and tie for guys, work suit, dress suit for women. Go to the Career Fair, bring your resume with you, and talk to as many employers as you possibly can before you fall on your face tired. Okay? So make sure you make a beeline for those companies that you're super excited about. My recommendation is always never to go to the top company that you're really, like dream job first. Like get the workout on some of those companies that are like less interesting to you. work your way up to those companies that you're super excited about. Communications from me. You're going to get a lot of email from me. I'm so sorry. But you're going to get a ton of email. Don't just delete it. Don't set me to be in the spam filter. Really important stuff that I'm going to send to you, all right? I'm going to send you updates and announcements. I'm going to send you lists of new jobs. I'm going to send you actual job openings sometimes. I might send you surveys that ask you how your process is going, what you're doing currently. I might ask you questions like, what is your confidence level in certain programming languages? I will often get emails from or phone calls from an employer who says, I'm really looking for a student who is super confident in Python. Do you have anybody? And then I'll have this document. I'll be able to look through and I'll be able to find, oh yes, Billy is confident in Python. He said so in the survey that I sent him. So I send Billy's resume to the guy who just called me. Make sense? So make sure you fill out all those surveys and take a look at my emails. Super important. So you work really, really, really hard this semester. You work really, really hard in the summer, and you land that co-op. You're super excited. I'm super excited for you. I'm usually your first. Most of the time, I'm the first phone call. Not even mom and dad. People call me like, Todd, I finally did it. I'm super excited. We both get a high five over the phone. It's super, super cool. All right. What's next? What's next for you is that you need to go through and you need to accept that job first of all. Verbal acceptances of jobs in a co-op program are binding. So if over the phone, if someone says, hey, we'd love to offer you a job at Kinetic Vision, you say yes, and then 2 hours later, Intel calls and says, do you want to co-op with us? And you say yes, I'm going to send you to Kinetic Vision, and I'm going to apologize to Intel for you being, weird with that. Okay? You're going to go to the place that you say yes to. So that's where it gets a little sticky. What if I'm offered a co-op really early? What if I'm offered 2 co-ops? Which one do I take? What if I interviewed with somebody and then I was offered a co-op, but I really want to find out, if I got that other job? How do I do that? Those are usually good phone calls or emails with me, and I can talk through a lot of those strategies on how to do that. But know that if you say yes to somebody, you're going. Okay? All right. Professionally and courteously decline all other interviews and offers. Don't ignore companies. If you accept an offer and then you get an email for an interview, and you just don't email them back, employers tell me that, and then I get very upset because then maybe someday we'll stop offering co-ops for our students, and I don't want to have that happen. So please don't do that. Once you have accepted, you're going to go on PAL. You're going to click the big blue I've landed a co-op button, and then that starts a process of me approving it. Now, here's the thing. I had a student who went to an interview, and the employer, the supervisor for that job at the end of the interview said, hey, you're great. I think you're fantastic. I'm probably going to hire you. And they had this great rapport. Well, the supervisor is not the hiring manager. It's a big company. The supervisor is the supervisor, and then there's an HR person who hires students, right? And so the supervisor has to pass that person's resume on and say, hire Billy. Well, Billy left. And there, that very day, came home, opened his laptop, and he clicked the I've landed a co-op button, listed his co-op position, and I get that notification, and I click a little button that says, super fantastic, approve, and then what happens is an email goes to Billy saying, hey, you got a co-op, and then an email goes to that employer. Well, in this case, it was the hiring manager, right? Not the supervisor. So he hadn't actually got the actual offer yet. And so the hiring manager gets this and emails me and says, who's Billy? Why has Billy got this job? And I said, I don't know. Billy said he did, and Billy didn't get that job. And so don't pull the trigger too soon, all right? Make sure you have an actual offer either over the phone or in paper before you say you've got that job. And then you're going to complete registration with the university. We work on that with you, and then you pay the co-op fee. It's about $465 for the semester, which is significantly less than tuition, that sort of thing. I'm going to get to you right a sec. If the job is not in PAL, if you found something on your own, or if you've found a job even at a company that's in PAL but it's not the right job title, let me know. All that other stuff that's written on there is important, but mostly if it's not in PAL, you let me know, and then I do all this behind-the-scenes work to get it in PAL, and then I place you and everything else is the same. But you won't be able to go into PAL and find that position. You'll have to contact me. That's a great question. It's actually one of the #1 questions I get from students about the whole process. If you've interviewed at 2 places, right, and you're waiting on responses from both of them, and place B calls you, and you're excited, but you're not as excited as place A, and they offer you the job, you have a big decision to make. Oftentimes, you can delay that a little bit by asking for some more time. Very few employers will call you that day and say, I need to know right now over the phone. And if they do that, that might be an indication maybe that might not be the best job because that's kind of their style, and that might be, ooh, yikes. Most of my employers don't do that. They usually give you at least 48 hours. Some will give you up to a week. Very rarely do I get an employer that says, just let me know whenever you want to. But they'll give you at least 48 hours. And so now you have 48 hours to call place A and say, hey, I was really excited about I interviewed with you. I have another offer on the table. I'm more excited about working with you, place A. What does your timeline look like? Never say, are you going to hire me? Say, what does your timeline look like? And then they know what you're asking, but you haven't asked it, so you're not being disrespectful. And they'll be able to say, hey, we're not going to be able to make another decision for about a month, man. Sorry about that. And then you have a big decision to make. And that's a conversation you have to have with all sorts of different people, your parents, if that's important to you, or your friends and family, whatever, or me, or something like that. But then you'll have to make a decision, a big person decision. It's never easy. Okay. What qualifies as a co-op? Very quickly. Work has to be performed in your academic program. Okay? So, computer engineering, we're awesome because we are computer science and we are electrical engineering, kind of mashed into one. We're the best of both worlds. We're super awesome. And so that means you could do a lot of different things, and I'm totally cool. You want to do hardware? Great. I don't know anything about it. You want to do software? That I know a lot about because I didn't tell you that. I was CS, sorry. But that's super great. Those are cool things to do. If you want to do this co-op that student said, backpacking in, Europe for a semester, that's not a co-op, okay? So those are conversations we can have, but it has to be relevant to your field, all right? The position has to be full-time, 35 plus hours per week. No part-time co-ops, and you can take classes at the same time. We don't do that here at UC. Other schools might, but not us. You're full-time, 35 or more hours per week. The position has to be paid. I don't care if they pay you minimum wage. I don't care if they pay you $200 for the entire semester. That's their right. They can do whatever you want. If you're super excited about that job and you want to take a job that's only $200 for the entire semester, hey, I'm more happy for you. The average, like I said, is about $16 to $17 an hour. But students will often send me an email and say, hey, I got to offer this job. It's $12 an hour. Should I take it? My response is always going to be, first of all, if you ask me to take a job or not take a job, my response will never be yes or no. I will never tell you that. But I'll tell you things to consider. The thing I would consider is, are you super excited about what they're going to be doing? If you are, take the job, right? If you're not excited about it, well, roll your dice and see what happens. But for the most part, if you get an offer, that's a good indication that you probably should take that job. The employment period is aligned with the co-op calendar, so it's 13 weeks, as I mentioned. It has to be 13 weeks. I'm okay with sliding that scale a little bit to 12, but definitely not anything less than that. So 13 weeks is where I want you to be. It can be more than that, but it has to be around 13 weeks. You need to receive appropriate supervision. I got an email from a student who was super excited because he landed a co-op that wasn't in Powell. They'd never heard of this company. I was like, oh, this sounds great. What will you be doing? I'll be driving around the country mapping out parks. Now, he's going to be using electronic equipment with a computer, so it looked relevant. I was like, oh, are you doing this by yourself? He's like, no, I'm just going to be driving around in a car by myself. That's not a co-op. Sorry. You have to be fully supervised. You can't just drive around all summer in your own car having fun at parks. It's got to be something appropriate and related to the profession. And then you have to be formally evaluated in PAL as well. Co-op terms and conditions. You get 3 assignments during co-op, one at the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end. I like to say it 3 times because students often forget. One in the middle, one at the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end. All right? They are filled out with you and your supervisor, not me. All right? You and your supervisor. The employer must also fill out an assessment of you on PAL at the end of the semester. Employers will often grumble about this process, but it's a requirement of our program, and so you need to push them to do it. After co-op, you return for post-co-op reflection. You have to meet with me in a post-co-op reflection. Sometimes that's one-on-one with me and you. Sometimes it's in a small group. But either way, you have to go to that or you get an F. And so for co-op, which you don't want to do because that would look weird on your transcript. And so, yes, you get an F for co-op. If you don't, yes, you can get an F for co-op. So keep that in mind. It is an academic program, right? It's not just, we don't just send you to work. It's all about learning, folks, right? You must complete 2 co-ops consecutively with the same employer before I'll let you change jobs. And really the extenuating circumstance is they're not going to hire me back. Their company went belly up. Something like that. Okay? Oh, and then read and understand the co-op handbook. All right. If I just actually fielded this email yesterday about the 2 consecutive term thing. I had an individual who did 1 semester with one company, switched majors. And so sometimes if you're leaving Comp E and you go into another major, sometimes we'll let you do the 1 co-op thing because if you're switching from Comp E to aerospace, well, you're going to want to switch the type of co-op company you have. But, so he had 1 already at 1 company, switched into us, got another one, and then was emailing me going, hey, I'm really excited to find my 3rd one. No, it's not. It's 2 consecutive. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that. I don't think I should have. You're bound by the co-op handbook. So you should have read it or will be reading an intro. And I will hold you to that. So make sure you read it. It's like your student code of conduct. Taking classes. You are not allowed to You are not allowed to take classes during co-op. You're not allowed to take classes during co-op. If you, what did my battery die over here?
So no online courses?
You're not allowed to take courses that you see during co-op. You could take online and you could take night courses. All right? Those courses are okay. You still have to get approval for online courses. You still have to get approval for night courses. And the college approves them. I don't do that. Daytime courses during co-op, very rarely approved. 9 out of 10 students who ask to do it don't get to do it. You have to request that well in advance, way before co-op even starts. And Dean Bowers is actually the person who is responsible for all of that. And it has to be really like, I have to take this course. It's only offered during the co-op term. And if I don't take it, my life is over. That kind of conversation has to happen. Otherwise, yes, online courses are perfectly fine. And in fact, a lot of students do that in order to kind of skip ahead, or students who want to do the Extend program, things like that. So yeah, absolutely. Transportation and housing while in co-op are your responsibility. I just had a student who accepted a co-op in LA. And he's going to be working for a company called Millennium Space Systems. He's going to be working on like robots that go in outer space. It's very cool. He had to find his own apartment. He had to get all that set up. Now, I think that's all paid for. Like the company paid him to they give him a stipend to live there. But he had to do all that work himself. All right, that is on you. I don't do any of that. I can recommend where to live, maybe, but for the most part, that's on you. International co-op program. Like I said, we'd go to Germany. We go to Japan, and you can co-op at companies that are in other countries other than the United States if it's a one-time co-op or even extended time. Certainly do all the, it's very, very cool stuff to do. We're expanding those programs all the time. We have the Singapore experience. Now we're bringing online the Hong Kong experience. So all sorts of opportunities to co-op internationally. If you want more information about that, please let me know. There'll be information sessions this semester, and I'll make sure you get all of those things. Questions?